Hello there.
How are you?
I'm doing good. I put on my suit today so I look a little more professional. Okay. You look
Very good.
awfully nice too.
Thank you. I came to London, so I'm in the one of the London offices. So before we start, do you have any questions that you want me to ask you specifically?
All right. So, what do we want to talk about? What all do we want to talk about today?
I want to talk about you actually. I want to talk about what you're doing. So I want you to tell others what you're doing and why you're doing. Maybe talk about your journey.
Yeah. Hang on a minute. Let me go get some handouts that I have that I think would be helpful for me.
So yeah.
We wrote the really good descriptions of what we do with our 8 service lines. So I'm thinking that that would be one thing, that would be important. Now, do you want me to also talk about what my feelings are about you as an organization, or do you want
Yes,
to have
please.
that on?
Yeah, we'll get to
Yeah.
that last. Uh,
Okay, wait a minute. Let me get this handout out because I can kind of spread it around and say, I want to talk about several things. And so I've kind of got myself some ideas about it, Chaminda. And so I'll just shift the pages and so forth. I think that my bio is really good because it describes who I am and what I do. Now I can describe that, and so forth. But I think what would be helpful is just you can ask me how I started out, what did I do, how did I
yeah.
get to be an entrepreneur. I don't know how long you want this. Do you want 30 minutes,
We'll take it
35?
to for 40 minutes max. Is
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't matter. We can go up to 50, 55 at maximum, but we'll try to keep
Then
everything
you can
short and sweet
select.
as well. Yeah, we don't want to drag too much because people don't want to spend too much
Right,
time.
right. Well, I think 40 minutes would be more than sufficient. And
Okay.
no, I think you can ask, you can say how, I can say how we know each other, how I found you, and how delighted I am with y'all your services and the qualities that I think. You can ask me questions, you can just say, how would you describe our relationship with each other and my staff and so forth? I think you could ask me about how I got started in the business
Sure.
because I've been in it 47 years, to be 48.
Exactly.
Um, you can say, I know you have a number of services that you provide organizations. It's very extensive, Jackalyn. So why don't you go through and talk about what you do in each of those?
Sure. So in that,
And I
what do you want to cover? So DTP leadership is one. We can cover the
I
podcast.
Well, I tell you what, DTP leadership has emotional connection, habitual patterns, leadership, cultural competency and diversity. It has executive coaching, it has visionary dream coaching, and it has the DTP business strategies, which is important for you to talk about because it's separate, and then the organizational development consulting. Because to be real honest, I've realized that there is not any organization that would work with us that we couldn't cover most everything they're doing
Yeah. So
because we're that comprehensive. And, I just need that out there,
yeah.
how valuable we are. And then Yes, I want to talk about the podcast, the reason I'm doing it,
Yeah,
and just emphasizing what I'm doing and ask him
yeah,
to, you may slightly disagree with some things I'm saying,
yes,
but there's
yes.
one thing you can guarantee is I take between um, 8 to sometimes I've taken 20 different resources
Right.
to create my script. And I'll say, I read every day about what's going on. I read, and there's some ones that I would recommend to you to read and listen to, and I can give them that. You know, um, I think, you know, that would be that's going to cover 40 minutes probably.
I think so.
You know,
Yeah, I think it'll flow through, so we don't have to worry too much about it. Let's
right.
start it. I think that's probably the best thing. Let me just
And you're going to introduce me however you want to. So just start.
sure. So, Dr. Jackalyn, thank you for joining me. It's a pleasure having you, and it's an honor. First of all, talk me through your journey. I know it's a long journey, and I'm sure you've gone through a lot of stuff. And yeah, talk me through it. We want to know, and it'll be very helpful for others too.
Thank you. Well, Chaminda, I don't know that we are very dear friends with each other because I love what you do for me and for our business. But what I would say to you is you probably haven't heard this story, so I'll give it to you because I think it's a very valuable one. When I grew up, my father was a significant entrepreneur. And so at our lunch or dining room table, when we're having discussions, he'd say, "It's great if you get a job, Jackalyn, but you have to own your own business."
Wow.
So I started out being told that entrepreneurship was the way to go.
Wow.
I then did get some jobs. I was a teacher for a number of years in a junior high and high school. I was a counselor in a school. And then I went back and got my master's and doctorate in counseling.
Right.
And I did those because I began to see that I was restricted in what all I could do in schools. So I wanted to be more advanced in what I'd be able to do with people. Um, I also spent 25 years as a member of National Training Lab Institute. So I ran president's labs and management labs. I ran personal growth labs. So I have a lot of experience in training people, and I've been in business 47 years. It'll be 48 in September because I started my business. And I'll tell you what happened to me. I had been in the school system in Austin, Texas, and had been trained by Region 13 how to work with special ed students. And I came to Houston and I only knew 2 people. And I met both of them, and I started my therapy practice
Right.
here in Houston with a card table and 4 chairs.
When was
And then, and then after the card table and 4 chairs, I moved in with a very dear friend of mine who I practiced with him for many, many years. And he and I built a small business that had 3 support people and 4 therapists. And I was also the organizational development consultant with them as well. And then we moved to a larger facility and we ended up at a 10,000 square foot office in the Galleria.
wow.
And then things changed as things do in the economy. And so then I shifted and started looking for other things. And after 18 years of therapy, I said, I'm going to move into the coaching world more and work in organizations. And so that's what I did. I'm grateful for the move. I'm glad that I have the background in therapy because one of my clients just 2 weeks ago said to me, "You are the most comprehensive coach I've ever met." He said, "Today, you helped me understand the reason that one of my family members needs ADD medication. Then you helped me develop a very strong, and finished it today, a market dominating position strategy for my business. And then I asked you for some assistance with one of my employees, and you gave me some recommendations for what I could do with him. And he said, I've never had a coach that has the extensive background you do. And I said, thank you. After all these years, I do accept finally with great humility that I do have a lot of wisdom about how people can change their lives and their organizations. So today I have a DTP leadership group, which we can talk about in a moment because you know a lot about it. And then also DTP business strategies. We added that 2 years ago because I could see that I needed to add something that gave a clear financial description of where a company is with their revenues and profits. So that's the reason I did it. And I'm thankful for all the years. And people ask me now, when are you going to retire? I'm saying, I'm never going to retire. I'm an entrepreneur.
Of course.
I love what I do. I transform people's lives and organizations. And I enjoy watching them achieve the things they want and the dreams they have. So that would be the short version. Okay.
Yeah. So thank you very much. So that's very helpful. So let's get to DTP leadership and DTP business strategies. Could you explain what you do with those? And then we'll get to I know you do a lot of stuff like podcasts. You have a charity organization, Women Advancing Women. You have assessments, habitual patterns assessment. So we'll get to those later. But to start with, DTP leadership and DTP business strategies, could you explain what you do and how you serve in there, please?
Okay, I'll be happy to do that. What I would say to you is we have 8 service lines. I've been struggling with it, trying to figure out how to say it, but that's what we have. We have 8 service lines. I think one of the ones that I would mention first is we are famous for emotionally connecting people to themselves and to be very clear about the difference between emotions and feelings and managing those, and then our thoughts. The reason we do that in the beginning with almost every organization we work with or any executive clients we have is that I don't change my behavior, Chaminda, unless I'm emotionally connected and have some kind of feeling, either I'm distressed or not pleased, or I don't like what's going on in my life. And so I don't change the behaviors I need to change unless I feel something. And I gave a speech yesterday at the Heights Chamber here in Houston. It was very short, but one of the things I said to him is emotions start in our body. The emotions start. We then think about a feeling word that describes what we're feeling, and then it triggers more of the thoughts that are related to the feelings. And I don't think people understand how much emotions are very important to us because we don't have the thought first. Yeah, we have a stirring in our body, Chaminda, and that emotional energy starts, and then we name what the feelings are. And if we process through them, then we have much clearer thought patterns. And we don't do things that are unhealthy for us personally, in our relationships, or professionally in the world, in the industry. And so that's one of the things that I think is very important about us. Another thing is that we have an habitual patterns assessment that really gives a very clear message about 17 different groups of behavior. And what I want to describe about that is that the 17 different groups of behavior, they're habits that people do. They work too much. They drive themselves. They become emotionally disconnected. They get overinvested in relationships. There are many things on our habitual patterns assessment. And one of the things, I'll pause for a moment and say, we are very blessed to have you and your team, because you're the ones that finally were able to put the assessment together, which is very complex. It is on our website, and it's very well done. And I want to thank all your technical staff and everyone else. So be sure that let them know that I mentioned it, because you did a heck of a job in helping us get that on. But what I like about the assessment, it gives people an understanding of what they're doing that is destructive for them to be doing. And I can also tell them if it's a habit or it's become an addictive pattern. And addictive patterns then affect me personally, professionally, and in my relationships. They're going to affect me more. The habits are easier to change. The addictions they're a little challenging, let's say.
Yeah.
But I think another thing about Liz Cloud and I are the founders of DTP Leadership. And we're both certified masters with the Leadership Challenge. There are only about 101 of us in the world. So we adopted the Leadership Challenge because it's the best research leadership program in the world. Nobody can touch them. Their habitual patterns assessment, not their habitual pattern, excuse me, I slipped into my previous discussion there. The leadership practice inventory, which they've developed, which identifies how people are leading, and it's a 360, has been tested in 189 countries all over the world.
Yeah.
So as a PhD, it matters to me. I know the validity and reliability of this assessment are excellent, and it is non-biased. And you can't see that much. So to me, the Leadership Challenge, what it really does is it teaches everyone in the organization how to model the way, inspire shared vision, challenge the process, enable others to act and grow and change, and then to encourage people's hearts. And what I see, there is an 18% increase in revenue and profits when a company invests in letting us train them and their staff about the Leadership Challenge. So that's another thing. I think another thing we do really well, because I've been doing it over 50 years, because I started when I was in college. And in some states in the United States, unfortunately, we can't talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. But, it doesn't matter, because all of us are still doing the work. We call ours cultural competency, diversity, and social justice. The reason we use those three words is because we have assessments that can determine how culturally competent an organization is. The second thing is that I have spent years with National Training Lab Institute and many other organizations appreciating and showing the value and benefit of appreciating diversity. I think yours and my relationship is a good example of diversity. I'm very pleased with the staff that come from Sri Lanka. It's a privilege to meet them. I enjoy working with you. You live in London. But we have all kinds of diverse backgrounds and knowledge and experience, and that's what you bring to us. And then that's what we bring to you. So to me, cultural competency is extremely important. Another thing we do is that Liz and I both, along with our partners, all of our partners have been able to be executive coaches for some reason in whatever their specialty is. because we're an interesting company, because we have someone that's a VP in a recruiting company. We have a banker who helps people get loans. It's, they're adding to what we do with DTP. So our executive coaching, I think, is very different from a lot of them, because we have the habitual patterns assessment. We can exactly tell the executive what they're not doing that's helpful, and develop their EQ, because we know 90% of the success of any leader is based on their ability to be emotionally connected and having a high EQ. So we develop those things, but we also have the ability to do some other things I'll talk about in a minute with their business. Another thing we've been well known for and we're certified with is, I have several of us that are partners as well, that we are certified with visionary dream coaching or some form of dream coaching. Mm-hmm. What that does, and sometimes I do that with my executives, because they are not clear what their purpose is in life. And our purpose drives how we live, along with our values. And so what happens is that when they get 10 dreams and they have their own dream team and people that are going to support them in getting those 10 dreams that are in all aspects of their life, then they live their life differently, and they focus on their dreams, and they focus based on the decision of their purpose. And I'll give you an example of that. My purpose is to be real and live in truth. I had a person call me that's a friend of mine, and he said, I want you to serve on my board. And so I said, describe what's going on with your board. And when he got through, I said, I don't want to serve on your board, but you need me as a consultant to work on your board. It needs some help. And he said, I think you're correct. And I said, if you'll allow me to come on and really help you restructure, really change what these people are doing and how they're behaving. Because I have a 5 sessions at 3 hours apiece that transform people's behavior. They don't walk out of it ever not having changed their behavior, like stopping gossip and a lot of other things that are inappropriate in organizations. And we developed it because of that, for that program, because we wanted to bring it into organization, but we wanted to help our leaders to understand what needs to change in them so they can model what needs to be changed in the employees. Another one that we added, that I said I added in 2022, was DTP business strategies. I'm now a member of a 800-person worldwide coaching organization, and they have proprietary software that what it does is it's got 497 million weighted algorithms that analyze 40 different areas of a business. And I can literally tell the business owner where they're leaving revenues and profits on the table. And the reports are very detailed. So that's another thing that I think we're really good at. And then our organizational development consulting, we have 2 assessments that we do. We have a cultural competency assessment, and then we also have analysis of an organization. So one of the things that I think would be good is, let's pause for a moment. If you'll pause your Zoom for a second.
Okay. Good.
So, Jaminda, I think the last one that I have mentioned to you is organizational development consulting. And we do have, as I mentioned, the cultural competency assessment, which is very detailed. I developed it when I studied with Thomas, who started the DEI initiative. And then we also have an assessment that was done by Weisberg that is really outstanding. It looks at 7 major areas of the organization. I did this in an energy company, and I had a 50-page paper telling them what they needed to do in order to be able to really change their system. We also did some of the diversity work for them. So what I would say to you is, I think DTP Business Strategies has an amazing opportunity to teach startups or new business or medium-sized businesses. There's one larger business that's considering talking to me about it. But I think that what happens is those 40 areas cover so many things, because I'm starting out teaching people how to do social media, and then putting them on a program. We call it Hydra, but we're putting them on a program that allows them to do some of that. But most of the time, even though I'm teaching them social media and many other things, there are resources I use. For an example, I recommend your company all the time to have people build their websites with you. Because the bottom line is, I had a really outstanding digital marketer look at my website, and she said, this website is outstanding. She said, the way it's functioning, and you just told me in one of our meetings that it's at 97% functioning now, and all kinds of good things about it. You know more about that. You can say what it is than I do. But I do that. Also, there's some of my people that do not have time to do social media. You do all my social media, because I just don't have time to do it. And I am developing some of the hot buttons I have for my clients that I'm beginning to see in DTP business strategies as I work with them. And I am developing some ads that I know how to do, that I've learned over time. And I will be handing those out to you. There are about 11 of them we're trying to develop. And I'll hand them to you, and then you can utilize them, because you and I have been trained with the same organization. So you and I, you can utilize those and be able to help us advertise even more what the business owner really needs to know and to be able to do. I think that describes this really well. I think, too, though, that all my partners have had years of doing what they do well. And we combine together, and we're starting to have, at least twice a year meetings with our partners, because some of them work, like one of them lives in Austin, and there's some that live in other parts of the country, and you happen to be a partner of ours, so you live in London. But that's what I would say DTP business strategies and DTP leadership are.
Mhm.
And I think that's what we do.
Thank you. I know you have this wonderful website, again, redeveloped, Women Advancing Women, and you do this charity. You had some events, and they went really well. So talk us about them, please.
Okay. Yes, I'm very dedicated to raising funds to provide education for women. We know that women have less opportunities to have funds to go to school. And so that is our purpose with Women Advancing Women. What we do is we ask that the woman has at least 40 hours of education. The reason we're doing that is we want to get the women that started education, probably ended up having families, doing something else, getting distracted, and we want to help them go back to school. And we've just met with a fundraising expert And we're going to be looking at how we define what education is, because we may be expanding it beyond the university realm and offering some other scholarships for individuals that are in other fields or in training fields that they would like to have some assistance in. Because one of the things we know is when people are trained or educated, their ability to make decisions is more effective because they've been taught to be strategic thinkers. If they don't have the opportunity to have some kind of education and training, then they don't have the same ability to process through problems and things like that. And it doesn't matter what it is. I have a friend that is going to be a firefighter here in Houston. And he's so excited about that. And he really didn't know what he wanted to do. So I'm very proud of him for being of service to our community. So I can't offer him a scholarship, but I can offer women.
Yes.
And I'll tell you about one woman that I'm really proud of.
Mm-hmm.
I was president of another foundation prior to starting Women Advancing Women's with some very dear friends of mine. And she started out, she went to nursing school. We got her through that. We got her through her master's degree. She's now in her doctoral program. And so I'm looking forward to being able to raise funds this year to provide her some education to finish her doctorate. She's fascinating because she wants to use technology in nursing.
Wow.
And she's using drones and thinking about how to deliver medication to really remote areas.
Wow.
And she's the only one in her program at this university, this nursing university, that is doing anything like this. So to me, to watch this young woman's dream come true is really significant. So that's the reason that we started Women Advancing Women.
Right.
And we want to help them to be able to advance themselves and contribute to their community and to their own personal growth and to help their families financially. So that's one of them. And I think that the reason it drives me is because I was very lucky. My father was an entrepreneur. He provided me money for my undergraduate degree, my master's, and my doctoral work. I'm grateful he had the money because I name this all the time. The reason I worked in special education is I have dyslexia and did not know it until I finished my doctoral degree. However, my friends would say to me, you study so much longer and harder than I do. And for many years, I thought, well, maybe there's something wrong with me. Well, there wasn't anything wrong with me. It just that I learned differently and that I had to do some things to be able to function in the more traditional school world or society. So what I would say is, I think that's another reason that I'm driven. I want people to have opportunities. And I am meeting women that have some kind of learning challenge and they end up quitting school. And then I talk to them about it and say, well, I know that my brain fires differently from others, but the advantage to having dyslexia, people don't really realize. And I found it in a fiction series, a mystery series. And it's what I have is my clients will say to me, you have gone so far ahead of me in your thought patterns. I don't know how you got there. You've got to step back and tell me how you got there. So as a dyslexic, I can picture complex systems or problems or challenges or issues, and then I can break it all up and break it down, and then I can determine the steps that need to be taken, and I do it very fast.
Right.
And that's the gift of dyslexia. Now, when I'm reading books and other things, I'm slower. But I had a lot of training over the years. My mother was very supportive of me, and when she discovered that there was something, they didn't know what to call it when I was in elementary school, but she started having tutors and things for me. And I've had tutors, at various points. I'm glad to know I have dyslexia, because then it gives me a clear message of how really smart and brilliant I am, because I went through all those degrees and never quit. Because in my family, if you started something, you finished it. That was the deal.
Wow.
So that was what I was taught. Um, I And so that's what I can say about Women Advancing Women. And I'm very blessed, because you have been very kind to Women Advancing Women. You've helped out this nonprofit. You designed a beautiful website for us. We brought in Barry Posner in October, which is one of the founders of the Leadership Challenge, had an outstanding program. It's on our Women Advancing Women website that you and your staff built. We also have had recently a program called Reaching Your Potential with Dr. Julie Wilkes and Dr. Jackalyn Rainosek. And you will shortly, hopefully, Jaminda, have that on our Women Advancing Women website, because it is an outstanding program, and it probably is about 6 hours that you're going to be listening to, or a little bit more maybe. But you will get all the handouts for the notebook, so you can literally listen to us and go through the handouts and learn a tremendous amount about how to contribute to your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. And we both Julie and I, have stories that are extensive about how we didn't help ourselves when we were younger. And she came up with some very serious problems, a heart condition, at a very young age. And then I had a multiplicity of things I did that weren't always helpful to me. But yet, today, I am at an age that most people cannot guess. So they usually guess me at 63 to 70. I fight ageism all the time, tremendous. So I always am open about it. I turned 82 in April, and I can run circles around most of my associates, because I'm really excited about life and what it does. And you have contributed, you and your team have contributed to our organization of being in a very different place. So that's what I would say about that. What else would you like to ask me about?
Okay. So before I ask advice for coaches, let me ask you how we have been working approximately a year so far, I think. So what do you think about our services and my team, and yeah, a little bit about that and our relationship, please?
Yes. And then I do want to get back to my podcast, but I'll talk about that after I finish this, if you
Cool.
want to, because I did forget that myself.
Yeah.
I think when you and I started, we started talking with each other with transparency. And that's one of our agreements we have with each other. I believe that we have had every effort on the part of Madamita or Angela or all of your executive, all your IT experts and things like that. I think we've had every bit of the cooperation we could have. And you and I have the kind of relationship that I can get on and say, well, here's my concern, and this is not happening. Could you please tell me how we can get this done? I'm not going away. I spent interviewing 8 other website designers and had all kinds of quotes. And when I found you, I went with you because your pricing was reasonable and appropriate. Your talent that you had on your experts that design it was excellent. And I know that both DTP leadership as well as Women Advancing Women, we get compliments all the time about the website design. The other thing I think is that I think I have a relationship with you and your team that I can say, I need more of this. Now, how can we do that? And then you have a suggestion. I'll give you an idea about some new app I've discovered that might help us do something. And you'll say, well, yeah, that's one. And here's what it does. And here's another one that I think might be more what you want to do. I don't want to be an expert in a lot of the areas you're in. I want an expert to give me those services so I can do what I need to do in my own company that I'm an expert in. And that's what y'all do. And all of them, I think, are thoughtful and well organized, and they want to meet the client's need. So I certainly would recommend your company and will continue to recommend it. Now, one of the things that we didn't talk about is the podcast. I am a very big believer in diversity, equity, and inclusion. I believe that the richness of the United States itself is based on the years of immigration that we've had in this country and the great riches we've received from people all over the world that came to our country. I'm also believe in democracy. And I am a staunch supporter of democracy. And when someone tries everything in the world to destroy our democracy and to act as an autocrat rather than a democratic leader, then I'm going to take a stand. So what I do with my podcast is I read every day multiplicity of resources. Some of them I'd recommend to anyone that's listening to this would be the Conversations is a worldwide organization that has experts all over the world that write on current situations, and their readings are excellent and they're very careful. The other one I read is The Week magazine because it covers both the liberal and the conservative positions on any topic. So I make certain I know both sides. And then I read a number of other things that come into me, like The Atlantic. The Atlantic has outstanding writers, and they are very clear, and they do a tremendous amount of research, and they do provide information on everything. So if you want to save yourself some time and not have to read the 15 to 20 resources I read every week, you can get in about 20 minutes, maybe sometimes 15 minutes, a thorough understanding of some issues that are going on in the United States or that are things that have happened in the world that are connected to what we're doing in the United States. So I would encourage you to listen to Hot Topic, Bold Talk. And of course, y'all put my podcast out on YouTube, and you provide them to my email list. And anybody can join me on and get on the email list, because there is a place on our website at dtpleadership.com where they can get on the email list and then receive all the information that we provide on a weekly basis. And that's all helped by what your staff does for us to help us run our business effectively. So is there anything else you would like to ask me or to cover?
As a final question, I want, with your immense experience, what would you say to a coach, a new coach who hasn't been in the industry for a long period of time? What would your advice be?
Well, if they're starting out, then the first thing I would say to them is look at your training that you've received and how comfortable are you with that, and what are the things you need to learn. Because I think there are things Liz and I teach beginning coaches that help them formulate their business. The reason that we are excellent at it is because we teach them what they didn't learn in their training programs about how to work with people. And we have such a background between addiction and recovery to all the other things we've done as executive coaches, that we have such a knowledge background that we can teach them some things through the habitual patterns assessment or something else to know what they're dealing with their client. The other thing is that I think we also can help them as they start up, or they're already in the coaching business and they want to do a better job at managing their company, because most coaches are trained to be coaches, but they're not taught how to be entrepreneurs and business owners. And that's what I've done. And that's what most of my team have done, my partners, because we've all been in business. So I think we have with DTP business strategies, I can take a small portion of those 40 areas, like 12 of them, teach people how to work in those 12 major areas of their business. And then if they want to advance more, they can. But I can utilize the software to show them what they want if they're only beginning. I've done that with a startup now, and I'm doing it right now. And then they can give me the information they have about their income and so forth. And then I could show them what the possibilities are for them. And I have lessons, and I have $1 million library, and I have all kinds of support, as well as a academy that they can utilize that will help them even research things that maybe they just want to know about. So I think our advantage is that we have been entrepreneurs for years. We know how to take an employee and then teach them how to be an entrepreneur and a business owner. And I have plenty of stories where I was not the most successful person. I've been in business 47 years. And I also have loads of stories of the things that I've learned about how to run a business. And I want to thank you, Jamila, because I really appreciate the opportunity to share all those things with you today. And I would love to have you give me a copy of the
Recording.
of our interview today.
Of course. Yeah. I will actually, let me stop the